Hello, this is a short little video looking at the interaction between individual demand curves and market demand curve and how we can use that to figure out what the market price would be and what individual consumers would want at that price. In this problem we have three different demand curves, right, representing three different individuals. As you can see, the demand curves are different. This reflects that our individuals have different incomes and different preferences in what they consume. We also have a supply curve. So what we're going to be doing in this situation is you can kind of imagine we have a demand curve for person 1. We have a demand curve for person 2. And we have a demand curve for person 3. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to sum these up to get our market demand curve. The basic logic here is that the market demand curve is really nothing more than the summation of the demand curves of the individuals who make up a market. Kind of an obvious point, but an important one to make. So we have our three different demand curves. Mathematically, we can sum these up to get our quantity demand for our entire market by simply adding them together algebraically, right? 10 plus 8 plus 4 is 22. Minus 2 minus 1 is minus 4p, and that's our demand curve. So now that we've summed it up, what we can do is we can factor in our supply curve here, and we can solve for the equilibrium price in the market. Quite simply, all we do is quantity demand equals quantity supplied, plug in our equations, 22 minus 4p equals 1 plus 3p, which is our supply curve, and then we solve. And if I do my math correctly, I will have 7p equals 21, which will give me a price of 3. At a price of 3, well, I can figure out what my market quantity would be by simply plugging back in to my demand curve. 22 minus 4 times 3. This will give me a 12. 22 minus 12 is 10. And quantity supplied is 1 plus 3 times 3, which will give me also 10. Okay? So my quantity demand in the market is 10. Right, and my price is 3. Well, how much will each person purchase at this amount, right? We can now work backwards with our price of 3 and figure out what each person would want, right? Quantity demand from person 1, right? 3 times 2 is 6. 10 minus 6 is 4. Quantity demand for person number 2, right? 8 subtract 3 is 5. And quantity demand for person number 3 is 4 minus 3 is 1, which also equals 10, right? That's my market quantity here. So what we can see here is that when given three different demand curves, it's quite easy to sum it up to the market demand curve, set it equal to my market supply curve, solve it out, and get each particular quantity. So this was at a price of 3. Now, suppose something happens in this market, and this is where things get interesting, right? Something happens in this market, and it changes the location of my supply curve. My supply curve is no longer this equation. My supply curve is now 7p, right? In essence, my supply curve has adjusted. It's actually moved out a little bit. Well, how will the change in the supply curve affect the market, and how will it affect these individuals, right? Well, we can figure that out as well. That's a pretty simple operation. We will go back to my three demand curves have stayed the same. My market demand has stayed the same. All I need to do now is change my supply curve and solve so I can plug and chug again, right? And in this case, right, what I will do is I will simply do my math again, which if I bring this all together, will give me 11p equals 22, which will give me a price of 2. At a price of 2, right, my quantity demand is 22 minus 4 times 2, which is 8, and this would give me a 14 for quantity. And my quantity supply is 7 times 2, right? 7 times my price. And that will also give me a quantity of 14. So you can see, right, supply curve has shifted, right, from my original to what it is now. Price has gone down. How will this change in price affect the different people? Well, price equals 2, right? Quantity number 1 for person number 1, right? 2 times 2 is 4. 10 minus 4 is 6. For the second person, 8 minus 2 is also 6. And for the last person, right, 4 minus 2 is 2. For a total of 14. So you can see here that clearly change in the supply curve has led to an increased quantity. It's also led to an increase in quantity purchased by each of the people, but by different amounts. And the reason why it's different, why they changed to went up 2, only went up 1, only went up 1, well, part of that is in reaction to how different people respond, right? Different people, as we shall see in the second part of this problem, have different elasticities based on their preferences and their incomes. And we'll get a little bit into that in the second part of this problem.